What's up, everyone? It is another episode of Left Side Heavy, the podcast presented by Blue Wire. It's your boy, Jevin Lefebvre. On this episode, me and Hayden brought on our beloved friend and recurring guest of the show, Scott Konkin, for a packed episode. We talk about all the signings. We talk about draft day in the NHL and just like previewing free agency. It was a crazy episode. We go over kind of a big name upcoming free agents who we kind of predict on where we think they're gonna go. It was a crazy episode, fully packed, lots of prospect talk, and it was unreal. Like Shane Wright fell to fourth. Who would have thought about that? Slafkovsky goes number one. We talk about Scott's Anaheim Ducks. They drafted Mintikov, what we think of him. Canucks drafting Lekaramaki, what we think of him. Canucks drafted another goddamn Elias Pettersson. What the hell is going on with that? Crazy times. Lots to talk about in the world of hockey and the NHL specifically. But enough of me and this long intro. But it was a super fun episode. I really hope you enjoy it. If you are listening to this, but you want to watch it instead, head over to YouTube and Left Side Heavy. Subscribe, like, comment. Really helps grow the show. And here's me, Hayden, and Scott on episode 109 talking about previewing NHL free agency. Peace. It's episode 109 of Left Side Heavy, the podcast presented by Blue Wire. It's your boy, Jevin Lefebvre. We got Hayden as well, coming from Calgary, the city.
Calgary.
So nice that they just named it once. Not good, not nice enough to say it twice. But how's it going, bud? How's it there in Calgary?
Oh my God. It was a trip, absolute trek for about 11 hours to get to the place. Had a couple of fucking screaming matches on where to go, the usual. Classic driving trip. Oh yeah, but obviously we're here. We're in a hotel bathroom. We're fucking rocking it. Getting excited for an NHL free agency.
What are you down in Calgary for? Stampede?
It's just a vacation. No Stampede. Yeah, the original plan was to maybe try and hit up the Stampede, but then we saw that foot-long wieners are $16, and we're like, you know what? Let's just not go there.
Yeah, I'll not do that.
Yeah, I actually like my money.
Yeah. Are the Stampeders playing?
They played in Edmonton on Thursday, and we leave the day that they play on Saturday. Yeah,
okay. So
it would have been cool to maybe go see a game.
Yeah, that would have been cool.
Next time.
Yeah. Next time.
Yeah. You just heard the voice of Sir Jimmy Fallon, Scotty Konkin. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, it's good. I'm doing well. I'm just hanging out. I got early bedtime tonight for work tomorrow, but I'm happy to be on Left Side Heavy and stoked to be here. Honestly, I'm a hockey guy, so I'm here for this podcast. What can I say?
Getting over a little tickle in your throat?
Yeah, trying to. I got the Halls working here, so if you want to do a little ad read for Halls, let them out.
No free ad, Scott. But I'm gonna cut that out.
That's but, no, I'm just recovering. I'm feeling a lot better. I went to work today, and I think the fresh air helped. And I work outside for those that don't know, so I can kind of stay away from everyone. And yeah, I'm doing all right. Things are good.
I mean, if Ian just had his flu podcast, maybe it's your turn. Around.
I might have given it to him though, so we'll see.
But how's Squamish Golf Course? You keeping it in good shape?
Keeping it in good shape. You guys got to come up and play at some point here.
I want to.
It's looking mint, and honestly, it's way better than the course we played last year at Furry Creek.
Really?
Like a more luxurious, higher end course, but for what you're getting at Squamish Valley, it's second to none. It's one of my favorite courses in the world. I'm maybe a little biased, but
yeah,
I do love the course. So
Everyone loves a little bit of recency bias.
Exactly.
100%.
Exactly. Of course.
And it's a course that you know the ins and outs of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I was a junior member there for 4 years, and I've been working there for now basically 3 years. So, yeah, I know I've played it lots, and I know the ins and outs. So,
that's sweet, man.
yeah.
Well, you got to get in bed pretty early tonight. So let's get going on. We got a heavy show. We're going to talk about some draft day craziness, and then talk about some signings and NHL free agency, like Hayden mentioned before, is coming up the day this uploads. So there's going to be signings out of the fucking ass the day this comes out. So a lot of these takes might not age well, but they might age perfectly. You never know. But let's kind of rewind a little bit and talk about the draft.
Yep.
Now, when it comes to the draft, I'm one to usually, okay, where are the Canucks picking? Just tell me when. I want to see who they pick. But this draft came with so much uncertainty about who is going where. Like Shane Wright was a consensus ever since until like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then next thing you know, Slafkovsky comes into the mix. Logan Cooley comes into the mix, and now it's like, all right, now we don't know what's happening. And then all of a sudden, Bob McKenzie's draft board comes out, and he has Slafkovsky 1, and then everyone's like, all right, well, if Bob's putting him at number 1, then like, what's going on here? The Vegas odds are changing like live, like crazy. So it was one I was actually really intrigued by. But boys, what was your overall reaction to the draft in general? Because I thought it was one of the craziest like viewing experiences I've had in a while.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Like in terms of entertainment value, it was up there, especially the first 10, 15 picks. I was losing my mind like with some of the events that happened. We'll get into that later, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, like starting with the Slafkovsky pick to Montreal, that was the first one that got the ball rolling. And it was a fun draft. Definitely 2019 was pretty memorable as well, just with how many good players were in that year.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this draft in particular was really memorable to me as well. So
yeah,
for sure.
Hayden, I don't know if you caught it, but
no.
like I was just about to say, like, I don't know if you caught it, but if you like read about it, I'm sure like even in like print, it just sounds like a crazy experience.
Oh no, 100%. And I've been kind of following the boy Darren Drager on Twitter, and a lot of it for the past couple of weeks at least, it was like, oh, Shane Wright, is looking pretty good, and it's like I almost thought like, oh, maybe do I bet like Shane Wright like number 1 overall, and then Slafkovsky goes number 1, and it's like, okay, well then does Wright go number 2? Like what happens with that? And then he didn't go number 2, and that one video of him giving like the dirtiest look to the Montreal bench or the Montreal table when he's up there, and it's like, oh boy, you don't want Wright playing against Montreal. Where did he go again? I forget where he went. He won the 4th spot, right?
Seattle.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's going to be a memorable game when Seattle and Montreal play next year, right?
Oh yeah.
If they do, so
most definitely.
Yeah, no, that was pretty crazy in my opinion. Yeah, the first 5 picks, I was kind of like, well, this just wasn't what I was expecting at all.
Yeah. So let's get into it. So when I saw Slafkovsky go 1, I was surprised, but I also wasn't too surprised because of the hype around Cooley, Slafkovsky, Nemec, and like other than Wright, like they were going up while Wright was kind of going down. So I was like, and just with Montreal's situation, they got Suzuki up front, having a dynamic line with Suzuki, Caulfield, and Slafkovsky. Like that's going to be something that they could remember.
That's a heat line,
right? So like that could be really good in a few years. And I've heard that Slafkovsky, like he has some of the highest ceiling of any prospect in the draft. He might bust more than other players, but like he's 6'4", 230.
Yeah.
So he's got something you can't teach in size.
No. And the fact he's a fast and skilled player right away, and again, at 6'4", 230, like he's NHL ready at this point. I think he'll play in Montreal next year. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
And kind of to your point, Jevin, about having the center depth down the middle. There's another guy we'll talk about with one of the big trades that happened.
Yeah,
we'll get into that later, but he fits in. Slafkovsky fits in perfectly with that player that we're going to talk about in a bit. I really like the pick out of Montreal. It was a shock at first, but after kind of thinking about it and be like, you know what, this is actually the right pick for this team.
Yeah,
I think Montreal made the right choice in the end.
And we'll talk about it now because Montreal, once it got to what, like did it get to pick 13 or was it around like pick 5 they did the trade?
5, 6, yeah.
Yeah. So turns out that they had a trade already made and they traded Alexei Romanov to Alexei Romanov in the 98th overall pick for the pick 13, like to the Islanders. And then they used that 13th overall pick and the 66th overall pick to get Kirby Dach. So now they got their two centers down the middle in Suzuki and Dach. And I guess that's why they didn't go Shane Wright, because they already had traded for Dach a few days prior, and then they announced it that day. So just that whole sequence, and it was the best video is seeing the Montreal Canadiens fans, like the roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah.
Like obviously Bettman gets up there and the boos are coming in, they're raining on him like infinite, like Endgame from Thanos. Rain fire. It's just the boos coming in on Bettman. But he's shut them up really quick when he said, both these trades involve you guys, and it just went dead silent. It was amazing. So yeah, you might actually want to listen to this because it involves you guys.
Listen to this, yeah.
Yeah, and then they were so heartbroken seeing Romanov go.
Yeah.
But then they realized they got Kirby Dach. Who say what you want about Dach, but I'm not going to judge any player until he plays at least like 4 or 5 years in the league.
Yeah. The fact is, Dach's 21, and he's got his whole career ahead of him, and he's a 6'4", 210, puck dominant center. And you see the clips in junior. The kid was nuts.
Yeah.
Well, in Montreal is going to take. I hope he takes a really big step, and he's got some experience from Taves, from Kaner in Chicago, and now coming to Montreal, he can kind of spread his wings a little and just kind of go nuts. And I'm kind of hoping he does, because I love Dach. I've got a jersey of him up here.
Oh yeah,
his U18 Hockey Canada jersey, the black one. Yeah, love that jersey.
That's
but
sweet.
He's a heck of a player, and I'm excited for him.
Yeah, I think it was a good trade because he fits perfectly in the timeline of them. He's not too young where he needs 2 or 3 years to develop. Like he's got the NHL experience, and Chicago is just a joke of a situation for Dach. Like I know he was playing with Kane, but like he wasn't really playing with Kane. He was playing with what, like Dylan Strome maybe, or like
he was playing like
Kubalik or something. Like he just wasn't really playing with players that were like gonna be there with him. So he finds himself in Montreal where they kind of got their core intact now. They got 5 solid forwards now. And yeah, I just hope that he can find a second stride in Montreal. But it's gonna be exciting. But yeah, when Nemec went second, I think that was the biggest oh my god I've let out in a while.
Yeah.
Were you surprised when Nemec went too?
Hayden, go ahead.
I was kind of like how we were saying, Jeff. I thought the whole time I was like waiting for the anticipation of like the Canucks have traded JT Miller. I was waiting for that, but then when it didn't happen, I was kind of like, well, I mean, probably the hotter or not the colder take of that happening. So I think it was more surprised at that, but at the same time, I mean, kind of not. Like, surely every team sort of has what they want to do with this draft, and I feel like, maybe New Jersey, I feel like they had more of a safe pick with maybe going with Wright, but like, who knows, right? Who knows?
The thing with New Jersey that really was interesting is that they have really good center depth as is right now.
Yeah.
Taking Nemec was actually the right move for their system. And I think even if Wright, well, it's hard to say in hindsight. If Wright went to Montreal, I think New Jersey would have definitely taken Slafkovsky, especially with some of the smaller centers. especially because Heischer and Hughes aren't all that big. But now that Slafkovsky's off the board, Wright's more or less kind of a similar player to Nico Heischer.
I was about to say.
You might as well take the top defenseman on the board, which was Nemec, and he's a menace too. He reminds me of Pietrangelo in a lot of ways, and I think he's going to be a great fit. He's going to learn from Hamilton. He's going to learn from Severson, and like I don't think he's going to play next year. I just think there's too many guys there in front of him. But once some of these guys clear out, I think there's going to be a spot right for Nemec and him and Hughes on that Luke, the younger Hughes, Luke, on the back end for years.
Disgusting.
It's kind of disgusting.
Yeah, it could be pretty nasty.
Yeah, New Jersey Devils, and they have like the second highest amount of cap, or like top 5 cap space in the league this summer. So they can go out and get some vets, maybe offer sheet some players. Like they could wreak havoc this offseason. New Jersey's going to be disgusting in like 3 to 4 years.
I agree. Yeah.
It's scary. But yeah, I was going to say, like, I was surprised Wright didn't go too, but then I kind of looked at it and I'm like, to your point, Scott, he's too similar to Heischer to waste a second overall pick on when a franchise right shot defenseman, which is like gold to NHL teams. When you have a franchise right shot defenseman, like that's you don't Hail Mary.
Guys, you have to draft them.
Yeah, and
rare you get to trade for Simon.
Yeah, and when you got a top 5 prospect in the entire draft and you have him sitting there at 2, I think it's a no-brainer to draft him when you're already set at center with the next 2 highest prospects in Cooley and Wright, who are centermen. Well, are they better prospects than Nemec? Maybe, but for the situation New Jersey's in, I think it was the right choice to go with Nemec when your number 1 prospect is already off the board.
Definitely, yeah. I agree. Couldn't agree more.
So let's talk about your boys. Mintyukov goes to Anaheim.
Anaheim, yep.
What are your thoughts on him? A nice, solid left shot defenseman.
Yep, I really like him a lot. He's going to really go well with Drew Helleson or some of the guys that the Ducks drafted in the second round. One of those guys, whoever it might be. It's a very crowded defense prospect cupboard in Anaheim, but that is really good. You
can never have too many good defensive prospects.
Exactly, and Anaheim is like probably
never enough.
Never enough, exactly. And Anaheim's probably the best defense developing organization in the NHL. I'm not even biased saying that. I'm just saying that because it's true. You look at guys like Manson, who was drafted late round, and Fowler became what he was, and Lindholm. Some of the guys are high picks, but then you look at someone like Sami Vatanen, who was drafted in the 5th round. He turned out to be pretty good when he was in Anaheim, and just a bunch of these guys that are solid. Shea Theodore, former Duck, who turned out really well.
That's kind of a heartbreaker for you guys looking at it, but
that one hurt. Let me tell you. But now that Drysdale's here, now that Zellweger, as good as he was for Everett this year, Hellison's now over from Colorado, and now they've got Mintyukov, who is kind of like a forward on defense. He's nasty, and some of his clips were kind of stupid. I really like the pick, and again, I was really kind of hoping that Savoy would drop to 10, because if he fell to 10, I think it's a no-brainer for the Ducks there. But I'm happy with Mintyukov. He's going to be really good, and he's like a CHL-based Russian, so we won't have the issue of him going back and forth, right? So,
yeah, anytime you can get a good skating big defenseman who can kind of transition play really well, you got to kind of jump on that when you can.
You have to, 100%.
Yeah, and
as a left shot, he fits the Anaheim system perfectly.
Yeah, and like I've read up on him for a while, because I'll be honest, like a lot of these prospects in this draft I wasn't too like educated on, but I looked into this kid and he has some of the rawest talent in this draft. Yeah. And if you can just get him developing and get some good veteran presence around him, then the sky is the limit for kids like that.
Absolutely. So, and like he's probably the second best defenseman in this draft behind Korchinski, and Korchinski's like kind of a wild card. He could be an absolute boom for Chicago or an absolute bust. It's going to be hard to say. Mintyukov's more of a safe, I want to almost say safer pick, but not, it's hard to explain how he is. But Yeah, there was a lot of talk like pre-draft that Korchinski was going to fall to 10 and the Ducks would take him. Seattle Thunderbird, kind of like Shea Theodore.
Yeah.
Some familiarity with the WHL, especially in Anaheim. Anaheim tends to take a lot of WHL prospects for whatever reason, but yeah, I really like this pick. I like Minchikov. I think he's going to be great, and he goes well with what the Ducks already have. So easy pick for Pat Verbeek.
Hey, what's your kind of thoughts on like never having too many of like solid defensemen in your like system like Anaheim does? Because despite them, like,
Yeah.
it's kind of like with like if Montreal went with Shane Wright instead of Slafkovsky, because the term always uses you can never have too many centers, you can never have too many defensemen, draft a goalie every draft because you can never run out of those. As we saw with Canucks last year, Demko, DiPietro, Halak were all injured or COVID at the same time, and that's how we found the rose grown from concrete and Spencer Martin, and now he's our backup for next year, right?
Yeah.
And so like you can never have too many goalies. But Hayden, what are your kind of thoughts on how can you kind of relate it to maybe like football, for example, like of a position that you can never have too much of?
Easiest position you can never have too much of is receiver.
Yeah.
You can never have too many receivers. If you have like 6 good receivers rotating, all at once, surely, you're going to grind down the corners. So it's like defensemen. You can almost put defensemen like a corner because they kind of play like that sort of defending role, but they also play that like position where they're your backline offensemen, like they have the power shots, they block any pucks going out. So the one I'd relate it to is receivers, just because receivers are so valuable. And any solid defenseman is a great defenseman, in my opinion, because they're going to be long lasting. Like defensemen are probably one of the, other than goalies, the longest lasting. And especially like tall defensemen too, like with a booming shot, and some great playmaking abilities. Yeah, the defensemen and receivers, I think, go hand in hand just with relating.
Yeah. And especially with Mintikov, like drafting him with a deep defensive system, you're not forcing him into the NHL. You can let him develop if he needs it. The worst thing you can do is throw a guy into the fire too quick, and it can hamper any player's development. It can happen to anyone, right? So he might not need it. He might be NHL ready right now, but you're not rushing him into it. And he could be like your number 1, number 2, top 3 defensive prospect on your team already ahead of those guys, but they've already had the development, the years of development prior. So if, hey, go play a year in junior overseas or in the A or whatever. Let's just like get those mistakes out early so you can come up and kind of be a little bit not so overwhelmed, right?
Yeah. And that's 100% like 100% the case in this situation as well. And again, Minchikov isn't NHL ready. He needs another year. I think he's gonna, at a 6'2" frame, he's got a big frame. He's just got to put on a couple pounds.
Yeah.
Then eventually he'll be gold and he'll be good to go. And he's already got the puck skills and the movement. And it just, a little bit of some of the defensive laps. He does play a physical game, but to play that physical game in the NHL, he needs to be a touch ever so slightly bigger.
Yeah.
And another year in junior, he can absolutely assert his dominance, play for Russia at the World Juniors if they're able to go. And then we'll see what happens. But no, I like you said, Jeff, and I like this pick. And again, Hayden, it's a really good reference actually. Having enough defenders is huge, and better to have a lot than none. And then again, Anaheim can use them as trade chips to get better forwards, or
exactly
to help move Gibson to get a better goalie, or who knows what that's who knows. So
yeah,
exactly.
And Mintikov has all the intangibles. Like he has all the stuff you can't teach. He's got the high IQ and a good frame. And in a defenseman, you want, like, obviously Quinn Hughes, Sammy Girards are kind of outliers because of how well they are at skating and kind of body position and just their transition play. But are they the best in the corners and in front of the net? No, you can't always rely on that. But Mintikov's 6'2", anyone can put on some weight, but it's the height and the frame and the good transition play coming out. You can't.
Exactly.
It's hard to pass up on that.
And it's, you talk about the size and skill. And that's kind of been Anaheim's identity for a long time, is having these big physical teams that can skate. So after, Bob Murray drafted Drysdale and Zagreus, who are more or less franchise players. Let's just get that out there. They are going to be our franchise players for a long time. You could even throw McTavish into that, but McTavish plays a physical, heavy, mean game. Mintyukov plays that physical, hard-nosed game from the back end. And then the other picks in the first and second round that Anaheim took, aside for Tristan Luneau, who's more of a puck-moving defenseman, both Noah Warren and Nathan Gaucher are both heavy physical guys that maybe aren't going to play in your top 6 or your top 4 defense for Warren, but they're going to be key guys on your team. Like Noah Warren reminds me of like Noah Dobson in a way, like a little less skilled than Dobson, but that type of kind of player, if you will. So
that's I mean, the Ducks' future is so bright, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I had a take that I said once, that I said Anaheim's going to win a cup before Toronto, just because of their star-studded core and crazy development that they always find. And it's
the goalie to replace Gibson, whether it's Lucas Dostal or Ole Eriksson-Ek, whoever it is of those two, they're both looking really good. Whoever comes up through first will take the net and hopefully run with it, and they'll be great. And that once they have that, then I think we'll be talking about Stanley Cup, but that'll be about 4 or 5 years from now.
Yeah. I want to talk about the Canucks taking Lekkerimaki. And anytime you can take a player with one of the best shots in the draft, you take that. And a good skating center and winger who is good on special teams and 5-on-5. You can't pass that up. And I wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on the Canucks taking yet another fucking Swedish player. I swear we're going to be Team Sweden in like 2 years. We're going to have nothing but them, man.
Both at this point, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to force Besser and Horvat out soon.
They just want to replicate.
Oh.
They want to replicate the Sedin magic there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Daniel Henrik had a lot to say.
Am I good?
In this draft pick?
Yeah, you froze for a second there, but you kind of you got your feet back and you got out what you wanted to say. Yeah, you're chilling, bud.
Oh, there we go.
Calgary washrooms.
Yeah.
Anyways, carry on, Scott.
I was just gonna say Daniel Henrik probably had a lot of influence on this particular draft pick, and the fact that Lekkerimaki fell because he was supposed to go like
top 10, top 8,
or like maybe top 12. Again, like you said, Jeff, I mean, he's got arguably the best shot in this draft class, and to put him with Pettersson, to put him with Horvat, whoever, or Everett Miller, if he's still there, doesn't matter. The fact is he's a shooter and a damn good one at that. So I think the Canucks did a good job with this pick, and it is another Swede, but is that by design? I don't think so. I think it's just a matter of best player on the board. And like I said, he did fall in the draft rankings, so I think Canucks got a good pick here.
Yeah, I could be happy with it. And again, he's going to need 2 to 3 years. He needs to fill out a bit. His frame isn't the biggest. But Hayden, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, it's kind of like what we were talking about on last week's episode with what we thought they were going to do. You know, how if there was going to be a defenseman or if they're going to go best player available, and this was best player available. He fell so far. And I watched some of his, some tape, and the craziest thing, he's 17, turning 18 in a couple of weeks. But what did he have in like 6 games? He had like 16 goals or some shit. Like, the guy's like a shooter, like an actual sniper. It's crazy and it's insane. And 3 years in the WHL because he's going to the Giants, right?
The Giants own his rights, but I think he's going to go back to and play in Sweden. I think he wants to play I think they want him to play overseas. Oh, okay. Yeah, but he does have his rights are owned by the Giants.
People looking at him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well then there you go. Yeah, get some people looking at him. Make sure he stays on track. And this kid, in 2 or 3 years, when he's 20, 21. He's going to be a fucking rock star. He's going to be just awesome to see.
Yeah. I'm I'm excited with that, despite Alvin completely butchering his name, adding like 8 syllables in there. I got oh god, it was so funny, man. When I heard that, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that doesn't sound correct at all.
Isn't what nationality is Alvin? Isn't he Swedish?
He's Swedish and he still butchered it. But
Terrible. Absolutely fucking terrible.
hey, yeah, good job, bud. But probably the biggest story that I feel like isn't talked about enough: Canucks draft another Elias Pettersson.
Yeah, true.
80th overall.
Yeah, it is a good story for sure.
What the fuck is happening, man? Dude, the fact I was listening to Donnie and Dolly, and Don Taylor was saying, like, yo, this is insane. Like, this is crazy. And Rick Dollywall was like, oh, it's not that crazy. It's 2 guys with the same name. And Don Taylor was like, dude, are you paying attention to what just happened? A player with the same name just got drafted to the same team, like 5 years after the other kid. So it's not like the other kid's on his way out. Like, no, they're both going to be a part of the core here.
And in all fairness, though, Elias Pettersson is a pretty common name in Sweden. I'm just saying.
It has to be like the John Smith, because I mean we have 2 of them. But that's the crazy part, is that we have 2 of them at the same time.
Yeah,
that's I think the crazy part.
Yeah. So no, it's definitely interesting, but definitely a unique coincidence, and it's cool that the Canucks have managed to make that work. I don't know how they did, but they did.
Just imagine a goal from Elias Pettersson assisted by Elias Pettersson. Or making a bet saying that, like, oh, why is Elias Pettersson, plus 150 to score a goal, and he's also plus 500 to score a goal?
Yeah, that's funny.
But I heard this one tweet, and it was like, let's be honest, guys. Alvin only drafted him to throw into trade packages because other GMs would think that they're trading the franchise centerman. And I'm like, that's so smart. That's big brain move there.
Big brain.
Yeah, we only drafted you to be a decoy in trade packages. Sorry, bud. But no, I read that and I'm like, okay, what? And they like look the same too, but it's like the 2 Sebastian Ahos in the NHL. There's a defenseman on the Islanders and there's a forward on Carolina. And last season they scored at like 7 seconds apart in like actual like time of day, which is so like
different venues, different teams, different teams. But it was crazy. Yeah, such a unique coincidence there too with Sebastian Ahos.
Yeah, so it's probably a popular name in Finland. So like I'm not surprised that we got like there's an Elias Pettersson, because I feel like there's 800 more out there.
Yeah.
But I mean, just they both got drafted by the Canucks. I think that's what stands out to me. If you got drafted by like any other team, I would be like, oh, cool, Elias Pettersson. But it's the fact that the Canucks got him is what makes it crazy.
Yeah.
But
it could also be a marketing technique.
Yeah, true. Could be.
Put like get like a jersey that has like both of their numbers on it or some shit.
Yeah.
Boom, buying the double jersey.
Yeah.
Are they gonna have to do like first and middle initial and then Pettersson to differentiate the name bars?
Yeah, or like if Elias Pettersson, the 2017 draft pick, is like has for like middle name M Pettersson, or like, and then if it's like like S Pettersson or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like they're gonna have to do that, because sometimes when like brothers on the same team have the same first letter, they just go with the second letter in their first name.
Yeah, I've seen that too. So
like AL and then like AP or something like that, or whatever their names are. But you can't do that with Elias Pettersson, because you just same first and second, third, fourth, fifth letter in the first name. Like everything's the same. So if they have like any sort of same middle name, I'm throwing hands. Yeah. Like, what are you doing to the poor equipment manager, man? You're confusing him. Yeah. You're confusing him.
There's no guarantee that Elias Pettersson 2022 draft pick actually makes the Canucks roster and they actually play on the same, at the same time. But
I really hope so, dude.
I hope so.
And it's gonna be a story if it does happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's going to be like first time in NHL history that whatever.
2 players. Yeah.
So I'm I was so happy when I said, because my uncle texted me. He's like, 2 Gretzky's, because me and him, when I visited him in Ohio, we went to a Columbus Canucks game, and we were calling Pettersson like MV Pettersson, MVPD, Elias Gretzky, like he was yelling that, and then he texted me, he's like 2 Gretzky's, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then I read the Twitter article, and I was like, this is insane. I'm dreaming right now. But so free agency is coming up, which means some players were re-signed, traded, whatever. Do you guys want to go through the trades first, or like the notable trades first, or the notable signings first?
Let's do trades first.
Trades first. I like that because one kind of falls into the other.
Yeah.
So we'll go to the first big one, because we haven't talked about all of the draft day trades, the notable draft day trades. Alex Debrincat is going to the nation's capital, that is the Ottawa Senators, for a 2022 first round pick, a 2022 second round pick, and a 2024 third round pick, going back to Chicago. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts on this trade? I think Ottawa completely fleeced Chicago, but I will let you guys carry it on.
Yeah, the Sens win it in a landslide. And again, they are 3 draft picks, and that pick was used to select Kevin Korchinski. But I think Ottawa's player wasn't going to be available at 7, and that's kind of why they pulled that trade off. I'm not sure who that player was. That doesn't matter. Point being that Ottawa still wins this trade. Debrincat still got lots of life left in his career.
It's 23.
23. That's my point. Lots of life. He's a heck of a player, and he's going to really kick that rebuild into hyperdrive. Well, if it's even a rebuild anymore. They're talking about making the playoffs next year. So.
Oh, they're like in the same position as like Anaheim or Detroit, or maybe Detroit's a few more years behind.
They're ahead of Anaheim at this point, just with how their players are progressed. They're a little bit further ahead in the rebuild.
They're in the retooling, just like adding a few pieces. Then they're done. Their rebuild's done. I think that trade finalizes it.
Especially because now they've got a great shooter to go with Norris and Kachuk, or with Stützle and Batherson, or whoever. And that top 6 is kind of scary, not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, and then they got Jake Sanderson, Thomas Chabot on the back end, and they might trade for Chychrun.
Eric Brandstrom and Chychrun's been rumored to go to Ottawa. Yeah, it's gonna be, as long as they get some half decent goaltending, which won't be Matt Murray this year. He's somewhere else now. It'll be, it should be good.
Hayden, were you surprised with the return going back to Chicago?
No, honestly, ever since Corey basically kind of explained how the draft really works, right? Like, no pick is an ever guarantee to start on your team. Anytime a player goes for picks in the NHL, I just think whoever gets the player, landslide of a win. Especially a proven young player, like
40
Ottawa,
multi-time 40-goal scorer.
And he's only 23 years old. So Ottawa wins. Chicago, like we said, or like you said at the start, Joe, they're just shit situation, and who knows what they're going to be like. They had their glory years 10 years ago. It's the ship has sailed.
They need to get rid of Taves and Kane earlier than they did, and and that's what fucked them over. Now they've got all this fallout from this, and now they're getting rid of their supposed to be young core, Debrincat and Doc included, and Adam Boqvist is gone too for Seth Jones.
That Seth Jones deal is laugh out loud funny, man. They signed him last year to 8 times 9.5, and now he's like. Now they're like, I think we want to trade him now because we've changed directions.
Yeah.
How much have you changed in 11 months? Like you committed to 8 years, now, 9.5 to a defenseman that you overpaid way too much for, and gave up assets and young prospects for the situation you're looking to be in right now. It's ridiculous.
They're going to have to pay Duncan Keith because he's retiring.
Yeah. And they take on his contract.
Yeah.
Some nice cap recapture. We'll talk about Duncan Keith retiring in a bit, but Scott, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say there was a really funny post about this whole like Chicago Columbus deal. It was like Columbus got like Adam Boqvist, like Cole Sillinger, and I think like a couple picks and like the 6th overall pick, which they used to select David Yurchek in exchange for Seth Jones, and the 7th overall pick basically was like the trade or whatever it was. It was like stupid, but like the Columbus won a landslide, and just shows you how shitty Chicago did with like all of these trades. Like even the Kirby Doc trade, I think the Montreal Canadiens won that too.
Yeah.
In all fairness, so all three teams that Chicago traded to won the trades: Montreal, Ottawa, and then Columbus. They won their trades. Maybe not in a landslide, but some of them were a landslide. But they at least won the trade, and Chicago got the short end of the stick, and they're fucked.
Yeah. The Debrincat deal, like I thought, because with Hayden's point that draft picks aren't guaranteed, which is why I would think Chicago would have gotten at least 2 first-round picks for a 23-year-old multi-time 40-goal scorer.
You'd think so. Yeah.
Like they were saying no to so many big packages. And then when I saw them do this, I'm like, that's it? Just 1 first-round pick?
Yeah. And
that's all they got?
No roster players either. That's the other thing that shocked me.
Yeah.
No like current roster player, no like proven NHL that's gonna step in your lineup.
Yeah, like I was thinking maybe like, do they ship Batherson out? Do they ship like a Josh Norris out? Because like, I mean, like you're getting Debrincat, and he's an absolute sniper and proven.
Yeah,
like he could potentially win a Rocket.
Yeah,
and yeah, 1 first-round pick and no roster players. Like Chicago in no parallel universe wins this trade. So I thought it was crazy. But Colorado acquires Gorgiev from the Rangers for a 3rd-round pick, a 5th-round pick, and another 3rd-round pick in 2023. Colorado, I guess, signing Kemper was on the horizon, and it was kind of past them. They figured that they had no cap space. What do you like this for Colorado? Any of you guys?
Yeah, this is a no-brainer. They weren't going to be able to afford Nichushkin, Kemper, and Kadri if they're able to get all 3. We'll talk about Nichushkin later. Kadri, we'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll make some predictions on that. But at this point, like Georgiev was, however you say his name, like he was gonna be a starter in New York, except for that they have Shesterkin in New York. So this is a logical move for the Avalanche, and Kemper was gone anyways. There's no way they could afford him.
Yeah.
And with his health status, it was dumb to re-sign him for long term for big money. So I think this is a great move for the Avalanche. Kind of, not gonna lie to you, kind of fleecing him out of New York, because that's not a lot of return going the other way.
Yeah.
In my opinion. But
yeah. Hayden?
Yeah, I kind of see it the same way as Scott right there. Not a lot going back to New York, especially when it's like we have a really good backup goalie, but we also have probably one of the greatest goalies right now. Yeah. Like maybe drive out the bargain a little bit. And if that's all you're saying, I think both teams won this trade. New York got picks for a backup goalie. That's like getting picks for like like it's pretty much cash money, I think.
Yeah. And I think Gorgiev, like he was still like what, 15, 10, and 2 when he was getting like not a lot of days between. He was getting so many days between starts.
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of his stats, they might not look as good because goalies need to get in a rhythm. And we saw that with Halak this past year. You saw him on Boston, and he was one of the best backup goalies in the league, and people were saying he could be a starter somewhere, like for a team that needs an experienced goalie or doesn't have a lot of cap space. He could be at least a 1A, maybe, right? But he got what, like 2.5 weeks between starts because Demko would just like took on the workload, and he would suck every time he got in net because like goalies need to get in a rhythm. So I feel like Gorgiev, he can only excel from here, and I think this can look really good for Colorado, because people are kind of recency bias, like, oh, he didn't play too good behind Shesterkin. But like, if you just give him some minutes and give him some games, he might play better. And I think this is a lower tier 1A, 1B, but like a good tandem with Gorgiev and Francouz. Because I mean, Francouz was 6-0 in the playoffs this past year. Like, I think that goes overlooked a lot, right?
Agreed.
So
Mhm.
people were worried about like, oh, McDavid and Draisaitl are going to put up 5.8 on Francouz, and next thing you know, Francouz is walking away with a 4-0 shutout in Game 3, and it's like, oh, okay, like Francouz, I guess he isn't so bad after all. And now they have another solid backup who is a starter on like half the teams in the NHL, right? So I like the move for Colorado. We'll see how it shapes out, but yeah, I think Joe Sakic is walking away with another W under his belt.
I agree. Yeah. Another one. One of
I'll
many.
I got like 3 more notable trades. I'll just rattle them off and then we can kind of talk about whatever we want. Philly Husso goes to Detroit for a 2022 third round pick is going back to St. Louis. Vanacek and a 2022 second round pick went to New Jersey with basically a pick swap in the second round, and then an additional third round pick going back to Washington. Tony DeAngelo, the RFA in Carolina, is shipped off to Philly, and going back to Carolina is a second, third, and fourth round pick in the draft that just happened, 2022. And I think the big one that a lot of people were kind of speculating on, the Maple Leafs goaltending situation, Matt Murray goes to Toronto along with a 2022 third and a 2024 fourth round pick for future considerations going back to Ottawa. Ottawa retaining 25% of Matt Murray's $6.25 million cap hit. So he'll be making just over $4 million. He was like 210 and something, or like 510 and something over in Ottawa. He's cleared waivers, spent time in the A. What do you guys think of any of these trades? And a lot of these players got contract extensions with their respective teams, but we'll go into that in just a second once we kind of clear the air on these.
Hayden, go ahead.
Well, with the Matt Murray one, I think that one's almost like the most notable trade because it seems like Toronto's trying to do something with their goaltending. You know, like it's not a huge name, but it's someone new in the building. And who knows, maybe Murray lights it up with Toronto's star firepower on offense, you know? And so it's just a new name. And I feel like people from Toronto are actually going to feel like this is a good move. And I think it's a good move too. Get a new name, get a new person in there, roll with the guy, see how he does.
And it also makes you wonder with what they're going to do, what Toronto's going to do now with Jack Campbell. So it depends on how the Leafs see Matt Murray. Do they see him as their number one? Do they see him as their 1B or their 2? Then that's a different question. We'll have to see what happens tomorrow. But my thinking, and I think probably Hayden's thinking too, in this being a good move, I think they think Murray is a 1, and that goaltending coach and a better defense in front of him will help. I mean, he is a Stanley Cup champion after all. So
first goalie in NHL history to win 2 cups while being a rookie both years.
Rookie both years, exactly. So he's got playoff experience. He knows how he's been there before.
Knew Hayden's reaction was going to be that.
What?
Yeah, it's weird. If you play less than like 25
like
games
the Makar situation?
Yeah. If you play less than 25 games in the NHL or like 40 games in the NHL and you're under the age of 26, you're considered a rookie.
Yeah.
And
because of COVID, this case is different because he was he came in
for the playoffs.
Yeah.
And then took over the starting spot, won a cup.
Yeah.
And then the following year, he was the backup. And then took over and playoffs don't count towards those 25 games. Right?
No. They don't. No. It has to be 20 regular season games.
Yeah. So as soon as he never played in the regular season, the first cup, and then played in the playoffs. And then the second season, he was the backup, didn't play 25, hit playoffs. Then that was the year 16, 17, they went back to back.
So,
But anyways, Scott, before I rudely interrupted
that's
you,
okay. No,
what were you going
no.
on about? I just saw Hayden's reaction. I knew that was coming.
Yeah, my point about Matt Murray, yes, he did have this playoff experience when he was younger, but the point being that he's got it. And it's, again, is it something the Leafs probably need? Yeah, because let's, think about their goalies and who really has proper playoff experience outside of Frederick Anderson had second round experience with the Ducks, but that was it, really. Maybe third round 1 year. But by that point, Gibson was kind of taking over. So Anderson's gone now, and Campbell is, I think, gone too. I think he's going to something else, but we'll talk about that later. So I think Murray is probably now the guy, and I'm hoping that Toronto's goaltending situation in terms of the coaches and the coaching staff will help him get back to that number one status that he should be.
To tag along with what you just said, Sheldon Keefe and Dubas both worked with Murray at Sault Ste. Marie, and their goalie coach worked with Matt Murray as well. So has a relationship with all three of them, which I think ties into the trust factor that Dubas is hoping to find the 2016-17 Matt Murray that was on Pittsburgh. He said that in the trade. He's like, we did this hoping he can re-energize his career over here. Because I did say, I'm like, I don't think he's the answer. He got sent to the AHL. But I mean, take his record. He was like 5-12-2. Take that record with a grain of salt because he was on one of the worst teams in the league in Ottawa.
Especially defensively, for sure.
Yeah, and they're really raw. I know we were just pumping their tires, but I mean, they're still super young and like inexperienced. They still got years ahead of them before they're really like contenders, right? And so Matt Murray wasn't really given any shot to like succeed there, right? So to Hayden's point, to your point, he's going to a team that I think if they get past Tampa, they're going to the Stanley Cup final.
That's a hot take right there.
I think they would have gone to the Stanley Cup final if they beat Tampa. I think they would have waxed Florida.
Yeah.
Maybe not a sweep like Tampa, but anyways, that's not the point I'm saying. But I think Toronto, like, I know you got to win around before I started talking about the cup, but I think this could help Matt Murray, but I still think they're not there with goaltending. Like, I don't think Matt Murray's the answer. Right. And especially with Campbell coming back, Campbell's wanting north of 6 or around 6. And let me tell you, spending $10 million on goalies that are maybe like fringe starters, you're playing with desperate measures at that point. And it's not something to rely on come April because they're still a playoff team. But I mean, once the playoffs hit, are you going to rely on Shilgren and Murray being your 1A, 1B to take on a re-energized Tampa who are now somehow have a chip on their shoulder after losing their third straight cup appearance? Like,
yeah.
So I don't know. Toronto, I would be nervous if I was a Toronto fan, and I'd be a little frustrated with how everything's kind of been handled.
Yeah.
So,
but again,
we'll see.
This is really how you view Matt Murray and see if Matt Murray can have a bounce back year, which I think he's due for. So we'll see. I do see where you're coming from, and I think it is a scary situation. But if this works out, Sheldon Keefe and Kyle Dubas are absolute geniuses.
Yeah.
If it works out.
Yeah. Because I mean, like Campbell was playing like a Vezina candidate for the first half, and then he fell off the wheels. Like he did not look like he belonged in the NHL at one point.
Yeah.
And that's the scary game that you're playing with Campbell and re-signing any team re-signing him for $6 million.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so like Matt Murray, it's a matter of consistency. He's just got to be like, because this team's good enough to put 4 goals a game. Like they got a good roster, but you got to be able to stop less than 4 a night. So it's going to be interesting to see how this year's goes. I don't think it'll work out with Murray, but I mean, it's only words at this point, right? You got to see it in action.
Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah. Did any of the other trades stand out to you?
I mean, like the fact that Anthony DeAngelo, Gritty, and John Tortorella are all in the same city is going to be an absolute chaotic scene.
Yeah, that's gonna work out.
I'm-
Tortorella and D'Angelo, holy shit.
Well, I think they might have been no shit. They weren't together in New York when DeAngelo and Tortorella were both. I don't think they were there at the same time, but
Yeah,
either way,
I think it was David Quinn when he was
maybe
he's in New York.
Either way, though, it's going to be an absolute riot in Philadelphia. I don't know what they are right now at this point. I don't think anybody does. Ian and I have talked about that on Speak Your Piece, and we have no idea what Philadelphia is. And they could be like the surprise team that wins the Metro. They could be the team in the basement. I really don't know. I don't know. Yeah, who knows?
I feel like they're just covering everything up with a Band-Aid right now.
Yeah, definitely.
And instead of actually like cleaning it out, stitching it up, letting it heal, and then moving on.
True.
They tore an ACL and then put a Band-Aid over it instead of sitting down and letting it rehab.
Yeah.
Like they could easily be a team contending for Connor Bedard, but instead they're trading for D'Angelo and like trying to be in the mix for all these free agents. And it's like
I'm very curious to see what they do in free agency. And there's one guy, a local-ish guy, that if they sign him, then I really don't know what they're doing. But
yeah,
who knows?
Yeah, it's confusing. The Ville Husso one before we move on to some of the signings.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this one. He did sign for 3 times 4.75. He didn't have a necessary he wasn't necessarily super reliable in St. Louis. He kind of fluctuated. He had some really good games, really tough games. What were your thoughts on Husso going to Detroit? Both of you guys.
Hayden, go ahead.
Honestly, with this one, I'll be honest, didn't really read much into it. I really focused a lot of my attention with D'Angelo and Matt Murray. So I'll pass the torch off to Scott here.
Yeah. For Detroit, I've talked with Ian, who's a Detroit Red Wings fan. I like this move. Husso is going to be kind of like that 1A, 1B with Nedeljkovic. Kind of see where they go, and eventually those two are going to be gone, and Sebastian Costa is going to come in, and it's going to be fun to watch. But the point is, like, Husso and Nedeljkovic were kind of like, I hope, are going to like shore up that goalie situation, and I'm thinking it's a good signing. And again, like to your point, he wasn't super consistent, but he was solid. He was solid in St. Louis, and again, Binnington kind of took the reins from him again. It was just a weird situation in St. Louis, Binnington and his antics, but I really don't mind this move, and I think it's actually going to work out well for Detroit.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the 1A, 1B with the young tandem over there.
Definitely.
All right, there's some big signings here. I'm going to rattle them off.
Bring it.
Fleury signs for 2 times 3.5 back in Mini. Letang gets his 6-year deal that he wanted in Pittsburgh, 6.1 a year. Husso, we talked about. D'Angelo, he gets 2 by 5 with Philly. Adrian Kempe, I think this is a really good signing for LA. He extends in LA for 4 by 5.5. I think that's gonna be a steal of a signing. That's gonna pay off really well. Philip Forsberg back in Nashville gets his payday that he wanted. 8 times 8.5. 68 schmil in Tennessee.
That's good. No state tax. That's sick.
That is my dream as a hockey player. I would look to sign in Nashville, and if you can get 8.5 for 8 years in Nashville,
what a place to play.
Yeah, Alexander Gorgiev, he signs for just under 3.5 in Colorado over 3 years. This one was a massive one too. Valeri Nichushkin signs for 8 years, 6.125 for $49 million in Colorado. Colorado got a fucking unreal deal with that one. And the deal that might solidify the extinction of Evgeny Malkin in Pittsburgh, Ricard Raquel signs for 6 years, $5 million a year in Pittsburgh. Boys, what do you make of any of those signings? I know I just fed you a massive spoonful of signings pie, but
I think you're right.
There's a lot of good ones here.
The biggest point
there is.
Yeah, Hayden, go ahead.
it's gonna be really weird not seeing Malkin in a Pens uniform. That was like the huge thing. The fact that they signed Letang and I'm blanking on the guy that the fact that they signed them and not left Malkin hanging out to dry because he's getting old. But it's like, holy shit, like this is an end of an era.
Yeah.
End of an era, and then every other signing that I saw or that you rattled off, Jeff, I think it's all like amazing deals for every player and every team. Colorado, maybe with the biggest steal for a signing, like Colorado, like again, like you said with the goalie coming in, Joe Sakic, like is there like a GM of the year award or like do we have to make one?
That's something I forgot to put him. Yeah, Joe Sakic won Executive of the Year. So Hayden,
well, fuck me.
Yeah. So yeah, he won. He was up with the Rangers, like Chris Drury for the Rangers GM and Brisebois, Tampa Bay Lightning GM. Sakic ended up winning. I totally forgot to put that down. Thanks for reminding me, Hayden. But this just proves it. I mean, Nichushkin is one of the best two-way forwards in the NHL, and he had a dominant playoffs, and maybe not dominant. And then he played in the Stanley Cup final with a broken foot, and they signed him to basically twice the amount of years they would have given Kemper at the same price, and you can't really complain about that. Scotty,
not at all.
What signing stood out to you?
So actually kind of, to Hayden's point about they're all good deals, all of them stood out in a certain way. And again, I think this is really, you talk about the two Colorado guys, Nichushkin signed at $6 million, which I thought at first was a little expensive, but it's not bad. The term's really good for him. Yeah. And then Georgiev at 3.5 is a steal, in my opinion. Or it's going to look really good in a couple of years. But kind of to all this, in that, Kempe probably should make at least 7.
Yeah, that Kempe deal, I saw that, and I'm like, oh my, LA, man.
And then here's my point. Here's my big point about all this is that teams, players and teams have seen this Colorado model. And like, you know what? McKinnon took less. Rantanen took less. Makar took less. All these guys are taking less money because they want to win a cup.
Yeah.
And every single signing so far has done that. And I think even like Raquel at 5 is a bit expensive, but again, they maybe had to, give him more money to keep him there because I don't think he loves Pittsburgh like he did Anaheim. But again, and to your point, the Malkin thing really is going to be weird. I don't know where he's going to go. I hope it's somewhere cool, or like somewhere like in a big market where he can like become, although he's 35 now, he can become kind of a star because he's been in Crosby's shadow his whole career. So
I want to say a couple of things on here. They can't be.
Yeah.
Same thing. I agree with you. The Mala taking less, and where McKinnon got that from? Crosby. Because that Pens roster, Letang, Malkin, Crosby, like everyone on that roster took less money next. What do? They won back-to-back cups, and they just
3 cups in Crosby's career. So
yeah, and they won cups, and so Nichushkin, I think like $6 million. Maybe I don't think that $6 million is representing the offensive production. He's one of the best two-way players, and I think paying money for stability from your offensive players in the defensive zone is massive, and I think it goes very under the radar. Probably if he was bad defensively and he signed for $4 million, that would be an underpay, in my opinion.
Agreed.
But maybe throw an extra $1.5 million for being good defensively to keep you around.
Yeah.
I think $6 million is perfect for him, basically doubling his annual salary from last year.
And here's another key about Nichushkin is that his chemistry with McKinnon, especially in the playoffs, is really good. And I think teams don't value that enough. And I think the Oilers should do that with Evander Kane, but we'll see if they do. But the fact is, Nichushkin in this signing at $6 million is a good deal. And like you said, Devin, he is one of the best two-way forwards in the game. So it's a no-brainer to me.
And he even started gaining chemistry with Landeskog.
True.
And talk about a heavy line to play against. Landeskog, Nichushkin. Jesus. Talk about a line with skill, tenacity, physicality.
Yeah.
the give a shit meter is very low, or
Yeah.
like give a fuck meter is very low to like anyone they're playing against. Like
Yeah.
that's a scrappy, skilled line and heavy line.
Yeah.
My God, watch out for Colorado. And they got Lehkonen as an RFA too.
Yeah.
Hayden's heard me basically stroke him off on this pod. Like, I love Lehkonen. He's a perfect
we
player
both
for
have.
Colorado.
Yeah.
So, man, this Nichushkin deal. And with Raquel, I think the reason why he got signed ahead is because I don't think Pittsburgh wants to give Malkin term.
No.
Because I don't think Malkin really cares about the annual salary. He just wants like 4 years. But I think Pittsburgh only wants to give him 2 to 3. So I think that's what's making Malkin frustrated. And what stands out is the 6 years they gave Raquel, is because I think the age is just on Raquel's side, and I think they kind of went that direction instead.
Yeah.
And
how old is Chris Letang?
He's around the same as Malkin, maybe a couple years younger, but he doesn't have the same injuries piled up that Malkin does. And I think that's what's and I think he's 2 years younger than Malkin, 1 to 2 years younger. Right? Malkin's around 36.
35.
But I just think Malkin, he's had ankle injuries, knee injuries. He was out for half the year this year, but Letang had one of his best statistical years this past year.
And
so
yeah.
I think it's
sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
I think it's just a style of play that kind of differentiates why Pittsburgh prioritized Letang more than Malkin.
Agreed.
So
fair enough.
And to that point, Jevin, to what you're adding on, like Malkin, like you said, Malkin plays that heavy game. If you're the kind of defenseman that can play until he's 45, it's like not very aggressive. Doesn't jump all that much. He doesn't play a super heavy physical game. Just does his job. Does his job. Plays really sound positionally, kind of like Ryan Suter.
Yeah.
In that type, a little more offensive than Ryan Suter for sure, but like just that type of really solid puck moving defenseman. Like he was like a new age defenseman when he was like a rookie in his younger career, and now he's like that prototypical modern day puck moving defenseman, if you will.
Yeah. So a lot of those signings were pretty solid, honestly. Quick thing, Fleury, how do you think this deal is going to age? I know it's only 2 years, so it's not too much of a risk. The annual salary isn't too bad, so if they need to ship him off at the deadline, it's not too big of a contract to take on. What are your guys' thoughts on the Fleury contract?
Good.
I think just because it's not that bad of a contract to ship off, if it's not what they want to do, I think it's a great signing.
And also they've got Cam Talbot there in Minnesota.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's a low risk contract for Minnesota, so I feel like it won't kind of hurt anyone, especially when Fleury's
low risk, high reward.
Yeah, Fleury's back on a team that he wanted to stay with. So, all right, Scotty. So I'm almost ready to ship you off, but I have some upcoming free agents that I want to kind of talk about. I went on to Sportsnet. I saw the top 12, so I kind of took that. Maybe took a little bit of notables, and I want to hear some teams that you might think that they might fit in, kind of what you'll think. I got all my predictions, and I gave each player 3 teams I could see him going to.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll kind of sprinkle in some. I'm going to just start with John Klingberg.
Yep.
Both of you boys, where do you think he kind of sets up? He wants a long-term deal. He's 29, I believe, or 31, one of the two.
John Klingberg is 29 years old.
Yeah. So didn't have his best year this year. Boys, where do you kind of see a veteran right shot defenseman, 29 years old? Where do you kind of see him setting up, and what do you think will kind of head his direction?
Scott, I'll let you go first on this one here. I feel like you have an answer.
I do have an answer for many things, but Klingberg could go again, right shot defenseman, hard to, as good as he is, he's a hard guy to, just trade for a sign at free agency. He might be a guy that's, Seattle's looking at and being like, hey, this is a guy that can really kickstart our defense core, because they don't really have anyone of that caliber in Seattle. So, and now that, because Seattle took Shane Wright in the draft, I'm pretty sure Ron Francis was thinking that Nemec was going to be that 4 when the Kraken were drafting, but now that they got Wright, they took Shane Wright, so now they kind of need a defenseman. I think Klingberg is that defenseman. Although he is 29, he's at least a guy that can, kind of kickstart and be like a centerpiece of the Kraken getting them through the rebuild. And by the end of his contract, if it's 8 years, they'll be at least somewhat competitive. And he plays a game similar to Letang, so he'll be okay to go to that point. So I think Klingberg might end up in Seattle.
Yeah, I got one. I think Ottawa could be a place.
That's interesting.
Right now, Travis Hamonic is set to be their first line right shot defenseman.
Yep.
So I think he could fix that.
Yeah.
There might be cheaper options out there, but I think John Klingberg is the veteran presence we were talking about.
Yeah.
And I got him at about 6 at 8.5. That might be pretty expensive for a player like him, but I mean, we were talking about Ottawa's skill, and all they need is some veteran presence. And I think a veteran right shot defenseman with still some skill left in the tank, I think could fit in nice with Ottawa.
How about Klingberg Chabot on the same D pair? Not that they would play together, but that would be insane.
Yeah, that'd be very nice.
Yeah.
I would like that a lot. Goudreau.
Hayden, go ahead.
Well, I was going to go back to my point with defenseman before. With all that said in mind, maybe Edmonton.
For
maybe
Klingberg?
try to convince him with maybe try and convince him more with like just you can be the guy. Maybe first, second line, and we have a young core. Stay with us, win a cup. Boom.
Yeah, I'm not even kidding. The 3 teams I have here is Edmonton, Seattle, Ottawa.
Wow.
For Klingberg.
There we go. Look at that.
Yeah. So great minds think alike to all 3 of you. To all 3 of you boys.
Let's go.
That's kind of that's fire.
All right, Goudreau.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Goudreau. Oh man, I'd have to figure. I feel like Calgary may have done him a little bit dirty. Oh man, I feel like maybe a Pacific team. Man, that's tough. Maybe Pacific or.
I heard just
tough
within his camp that he would either want to go back to Calgary or over to where he's from, like the Northeast area.
East area, yeah. And that's kind of my prediction.
Oh, okay.
That's my
prediction. So then maybe Boston?
Yeah, Boston is one of the teams that I had to. I think he's going to Philadelphia.
You think he's going to Philly?
Yeah, just to absolutely stir the pot. Hayden, Goudreau's from the New Jersey, Philadelphia, like that metropolitan corridor. I'm pretty sure he's from New Jersey, but he's gonna be
okay.
Yeah, he's gonna be in that realm. I think Philadelphia, just for the pure chaos of it. That's my pick, just for shits and giggles.
And his boy Kevin Hayes is playing for Philly. Yeah. So
exactly, I think it's
Philly kind of makes sense then.
Yeah. I just think with where Philly's at, I think Goudreau's like, yeah, Philly sounds cool, but
yeah,
their team might be in the shitter. And if I want to sign long-term for good money, I don't want to waste years of my career here. I think he's re-signing in Calgary. I think they're going to give him 8 by 10. And I think he's going to stay.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I think he's going to stay in Calgary. Just because I think out of all the other teams, maybe he goes to New Jersey because they got cap space and a young core.
Yeah.
I think he could fit in nice with Jack Hughes.
True.
But I think he stays with Calgary for $10 million a year.
That also begs the question about Tkachuk as his RFA status and how they're going to sign him too.
And according to Cap Friendly, it says they have a projected cap space of 26 mil. So it would basically they're going all in on the 2 guys and then finding scraps, maybe value contracts.
Yeah. So
it would be tough, but
one of them's going to go. I'm thinking one of them of the 2 are going to go, and I think it's going to be Goudreau.
And if I would prioritize Tkachuk.
Yes.
The younger.
Yeah, younger brings more to the table. But I personally think he's going to resign in Calgary.
Yeah.
I think he's going to find a deal there. We'll go with Evgeny Malkin.
Well, there's like 100 teams.
I got one.
I got a team as well. Hey, you go first, bud.
Yeah.
Vancouver.
You think he's coming to Vancouver?
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Oh boy.
I think
Put him on
there's.
a wing. Let's see how he does. Give him like 3 years.
Oh god.
I don't
Come
think we
on,
have the
think
cap
about it
space for
though.
that.
But if he's not looking for anything like huge and he's just looking for term,
I
why
still,
not Vancouver take a shot on him?
I still think, with Rutherford and Alvin's timeline, I don't think I think it'd be a waste of money, just because Malkin's age and stuff
Okay.
doesn't necessarily fit with where Vancouver's at right now. And yeah, like I don't think he's gonna be taking like $2 million though. Like I still think he wants like around like $4 to $5 million. So, but
That's what
like,
I was kind of thinking, like a 3x4 or a 3x5.
yeah. So I just not sure if Canucks have the facilities for that when they have other needs ahead of them, because we just got a Russian, the biggest overseas free agent in Kuzmenko.
Kuzmenko, yeah.
And
That is true.
so I don't think on like an entry level contract. So I don't necessarily think Malkin would be a fit in Vancouver. But I mean, it would be I would be upset if we signed Malkin, just because I don't think it really makes sense. But that would be insane. Canucks Twitter would go fucking mental.
Absolutely insane.
They would go crazy.
Yeah. Malkin's an interesting guy, and I think because he's made so much money in his career, I don't think he cares about that anymore. I think he wants to, like you guys mentioned before, I just think he wants to win a cup, and I think his best place to do that is probably in Florida.
Florida.
Yeah, I think
Interesting.
I think he might go to Florida. I think the
No state tax. Give me all the cash.
exactly, or
Yeah.
Florida, honestly, even Carolina.
That was my team.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Carolina's a bunch of cheap bastards. So when they find out, oh, Malkin doesn't necessarily want money, okay, we'll just throw an extra year on that contract and
Again, I
take
think
down his AAV. Come over to Carolina.
Svechnikov, low key, might be kind of stupid.
Gross.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like that would be kind of absurd.
They need power play help.
Yep.
That power play,
Yep.
throw Malkin on there.
Yep.
On the right circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Svechnikov in the left circle. Aho somewhere there too. I don't. Yeah.
Another team I had was the Islanders.
Yeah, I see that too.
Maybe going over.
Malkin's gonna stay on the East Coast for sure.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of what team.
Yeah.
But I like Florida. I like Carolina, and I like your pick in New York Islanders as well.
All right, we'll do two more here. Andre Palat, because I have an interesting one.
Yeah, I think
with Andre Palat.
Yeah, I'm kind of reading your mind, Jeff, and I think I might know who you're gonna say. But I want to hear Hayden's pick first.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just kind of lagged out there. Didn't hear anything. What just happened?
Andre Palat. He was on Tampa Bay. Seems like he's
Palat. Man.
Seems like he's gonna be testing the market. Stamkos did the same thing when he was at UFA, but he went back to Tampa. So I mean, I don't think Tampa's off the table. I have him within one of the three teams here.
Yeah.
But I have an interesting place.
Ooh. St. Louis.
Oh, I don't mind.
Kind of like on the cup contending.
Yeah.
Kind of on the cup contending. Kind of like a.
I fucking like that a lot, actually.
That's sneaky. That's sneaky good.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Perron's coming back. So, wow. Hey, that's a good one.
Some insider knowledge right there.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
I just like the one big thing actually is when I listened to a Speak Your Piece episode, with obviously just you and Ian on it, Scott, and one of like the biggest like things that he had said was, come playoff times, I think St. Louis is gonna be ready, and then just we're kind of average, right? But I mean, this next year, like St. Louis has shown it, and like Palat, yeah, like he's been on Tampa.
Yeah.
Why not go to St. Louis?
Yeah. And they've won a cup in recent memory. And again, to your point about St. Louis,
exactly,
always a playoff team, and Palat's a playoff player, and he's been one of the best the last 5 years. So I like that pick. Why not?
Yeah, I like that a lot too. Scotty?
I want to hear yours. Actually, I kind of want to hear yours first. I'm gonna say goes back to Tampa Bay, but there is a team that I think you're gonna say, and I'm gonna agree with you.
I think Calgary.
That's not what I thought, but okay.
I think
yeah,
because with the
Yeah.
uncertainty of Goudreau, you need a cheaper option who has experience of going on
Yeah.
cup runs, who can
I do
perform in the playoffs, and they've had the lack of performances in the playoffs, and
Yeah.
who he had 11 goals in their second cup run or first cup run.
Yeah.
He's a clutch player, comes out, he'll probably come in at half the price of Goudreau, maybe just over half.
Yeah.
I have him maybe coming in at 5 by 5.5. 31-year-old player. I think he could be, and you can throw him on with Kachuk or throw him on the second line with Dylan Dubé or whatever. I think that could be a good signing. But Scott, what were you thinking?
So I was actually thinking you're going to say Anaheim because there's been rumblings about him going to Anaheim, and I don't mind that either.
I don't mind that either too.
Like, I really like your Calgary pick though, especially if Goudreau is gone.
That's a big, if Goudreau resigns, I don't think he goes there. But I think with this uncertainty of Goudreau, I think Palat could be a good.
Couldn't agree more. That's exactly what I was going to say.
Fill in.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. And that's, again, we'll have to see. It's going to be a very fluid playoff. It's basically once the Goudreau domino falls, everything else in terms of forwards is going to fall. So we'll see. And I think Palat, I do like Calgary. I do like St. Louis. Anaheim would be a good option too, but I ultimately think he's going to stay in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I think it's such an interesting player. I have a little sleeper a player that might end up in Anaheim and might kind of fit.
Sure.
Could be a decent depth player.
Yep.
Ilya Mikheyev.
Oh, yeah.
He wants a payday a bit higher than he's worth, 4.5, 5.5. I think it's too much, but I think he can be a nice depth piece for Anaheim, especially with a team who has money to spend.
Yeah, and
27.
Yeah,
you can kind of play penalty kill, good third line power for it. Bring speed.
Here's another thing too, another tidbit that you might not know. The Ducks didn't tender a qualifying offer to Sonny Milano.
Oh.
Yeah. So again, there's no guarantee that the Ducks don't re-sign Sonny Milano. I think they should, but if
they just might find him at a cheaper price.
Exactly. And if, honestly, Mikheyev would be a great fit, maybe not playing with Zegras, but he would play third line minutes, play beside Isaac Lindstrom, like the speedy, lanky, kind of like really defensively sound forward that the Ducks are starting to kind of accumulate. And I like that, actually. Mikheyev to Anaheim, that would piss off some of my buddies who are Leafs fans, but yeah, I don't mind that, actually.
Yeah. Hayden, you were kind of, I don't know if you look, I'll maybe throw in a notable free agent here that I don't know if you know much about Mikheyev, but how about Evander Kane?
I think he re-signs with Edmonton.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I could see that. I threw in Anaheim.
Wow. Kane to Anaheim. I like that. Actually, not gonna lie to you, like Zegras needs some not protection, but like he needs a guy that's gonna, be a big body, go to the net for him. Because Troy Terry, as good as Troy Terry is, Terry and Zegras shouldn't play together in the same line 5-on-5. But I like that a lot, actually.
Because I think Evander Kane is looking for the most money possible and a team with the highest cap space, because we've heard his debt stories, but I think if he can get a 5x7 or something like that, I don't know if Edmonton has the money to do that when they have other needs, like on defense, goalie, because I think they go after Kemper. I think Kemper's a guaranteed land in Edmonton.
Wow.
Yeah, I'll put my Mark Messier
guarantee on that. That would be huge.
Because they tried trading for him from Arizona, but then Colorado beat them. They tried getting Markstrom. Calgary beat them.
Yeah.
Edmonton's like, oh, he's a free agent. He wants $6 million. We'll give him $7 million.
Yeah.
We need a 1A. He just won a cup. whatever. So I think they might put their money elsewhere instead of re-signing Kane. So I think Kane goes to the biggest contract. I don't think winning is necessarily high on his list. So I'm sure he's willing to sacrifice, maybe be a part of a rebuild. Maybe he wants to play with Zegras. Maybe he just wants to be a part of that, right?
Who
Who
knows?
knows? So I think a team with the most cap space maybe might equal the biggest contract he gets. So
I don't mind that at all. Actually, that's a pretty good one.
and he could be a vet for the young guys too. Maybe not the best person to learn from.
Ducks still have a good veteran in that locker room for sure, and I think the culture of Anaheim. That's a good one. I like that. The culture of Anaheim is really sound and solid, especially with Getzlaf. You know, he's gone now, but again, he set such a
standard in there.
Standard. Oh my gosh, unbelievable. Yeah. And now like Terry and Cam Fowler and Silverberg still there, and Adam Henrique, these guys are gonna like take over that room until a Drysdale, a McTavish becomes a captain, and then they're gonna still implement the same type of principles that the Getzlaf did. And it's just going to be, it's like passing the torch. And it's really good Getzlaf stayed. So we could, you know, have at least a year and a half to get with Zegras and Drysdale, and McTavish got some time with him. And it was, yeah, like it'll be, I do like that Kane signing. And again, he might be a good piece in that puzzle. I don't know if he's the right fit for Anaheim, but I think that's based on what you said, a team like Anaheim in a similar situation could sign Kane easily.
I also put Ottawa and New Jersey on there too.
Yeah. Again, similar situation to Anaheim with money and a developing team that needs like a steady scoring winger.
Yeah. All right, Scott. I've held you hostage for long enough. We've held you hostage for long enough. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, of course.
Where can people follow you? So
follow me at Scott_Konkin. I am a regular guest. I am not the owner. I am the regular guest on the Speak Your Piece podcast. So go check that out. Ian and I are, you know, doing some work. We're really busy with our lives, but we're, you know, trying to do our podcast, and we do Saturday selections every Saturday. So go check those out. It's the greatest game show on Saturday mornings. You'll see.
It's really fun.
It's really fun, and you get a shout out on the story if you win.
I always lose.
Sam, never won one.
We'll change that. We can change that. Well, you guys got to get some good votes. Well, maybe we'll, you know, do some more like San Diego Padres. We'll do some more teams that you guys like, maybe some more football coming in the fall. Maybe we'll see. So anyways, it's, you know, go check us out, Speak Your Piece. And my Instagram is Scott_Konkin. Guys, I really appreciate you letting me on. It's been fun. I love talking about, this is like my favorite time of year for hockey. The draft and free agency. It's just nuts. So I'm here for it.
Yeah, Wednesday's going to be unreal, or I guess the 13th, because this comes out on the 13th. But Hayden, where can everyone follow you?
Everyone can follow me on Instagram and Twitter, Hayden_Barton. And I am going to love when my phone fucking explodes on Wednesday full of, everyone's officially signed here, everyone's officially signed there. That's going to think, holy shit.
Yeah, I put on tweet notifications for Friedman, Drager, Pierre LeBrun, Bob McKenzie, all the insiders.
Love it.
Yeah. I had to turn it off for the playoffs and the draft because I saw the delay in the TV thing. I would get the score updates before the goal actually happened. I almost threw my phone into like the water every single time. I'd be so annoyed. But anyways, you guys can follow me on Instagram at Jevon.Lefave, on Twitter at JevonLefave. Find everything for the show on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at LeftSideHeavy_. Head to the YouTube Left Side Heavy if you want to watch instead of listen. And anywhere you get your podcast, leave a rating and review. It really helps grow the show. This Friday is another kick back and relax episode. I think I'm leaning towards having interviewing my dad about how he kind of boxed in his early days, kind of some funny stories from that, and just kind of shooting the breeze with the old man. So we'll kind of see what direction I go there, but I still haven't really decided on it. So hey, we'll see. But I appreciate you guys for listening. Free agency is going to be absolutely wild. Scott, once again, thank you very much for hopping on, staying up late for us. I know you need to go to bed soon. Yeah. So I appreciate it a lot.
Yes.
Anyways, as for your listeners, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
we're in the right place. Do you know